everybody, and welcome to ConTinual, the con that never ends. We are so glad you're joining us tonight. We are going to talk about beach reads and things we read on vacation and just stuff that's fun to read. And I have some fabulous guests with me tonight, and I would like them to introduce themselves. Why don't you start, Stephanie?
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Burke. I'm also known as Flash. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a USA Today best-selling author. I've published just about 100 books in my career, and I have done everything from LGBTQ, sci-fi, paranormal, fantasy, horror. Basically, if it catches my attention, I'm going to write about it. And that's me.
Most excellent. Samantha?
Hi, I'm Samantha Bryant. I'm best known for the Menopausal Superheroes series, but I also like to play around in a lot of speculative fiction playgrounds. Last year, I published as much horror as I did superhero, and that seemed very appropriate last year. And I would argue that as a middle school teacher by day, I know a lot about horror.
You do. I have a high schooler. You do. John?
Hi, I'm John Hartness. I'm the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books. We're an independent press based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I publish a fair chunk of the people on this panel. I also write a few things, including the Black Knight Chronicles urban fantasy series, the Bubba the Monster Hunter comedic horror series of novellas and short stories, and the Quincy Harker Demon Hunter series of novellas and novels. And yeah, I don't have anything witty to say about middle schoolers because, you know, they should be served with extra garlic.
Yeah, that gets that kind of gamey taste out of it. Piper?
I'm Piper Hughley, and I publish or I write historical romance. And over the past few years, that's what I've done. And in 2021, I'm making a bit of a segue to my first contemporary romance novel that'll be published by Hallmark Publishing, and historical fiction early next year. And I'm a professor by day, but that's over with and the summer is on. So yay.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Alexandra?
Hi, everybody. I'm Alexandra Christian. I write mostly paranormal and contemporary romance. I dabble every now and then in horror, particularly when I write for the Shadow Council Archives, which is a subset of the Quincy Harker books that John Hartness publishes with Falstaff Books. And I don't have anything witty to say about middle schoolers either.
But her most recent release, Dr. Watson and the Ladies Club Coven, is available by the time you're watching this on everywhere books are sold.
That's so awesome.
Is.
Yay.
Yay.
And I'm your host, Jeanne Adams. I write urban fantasy, paranormal romantic suspense, and space adventure with my friend Nancy Northcott, which will soon be coming to you from Falstaff Books. So we're going to talk about vacation reads, beach reads, what we like to read when we go on vacation. So Piper, what's in your to be read pile? What do you love? What are you loving to read for vacation?
Now that I'm free, you mean?
Yes, you're free.
I mean, because this was such an awful term. I mean, just because of the recent unpleasantness, students are kind of really shaken up. And I know they're just going to be so glad to get back to campus in the fall and do what college students do best and rub up against each other. Really hard when they're not able to do that. They're not the work ethic
Frankie
out the window. They don't have a work ethic.
I know that gets to me. I mean, I have no work ethic when I can't rub up against somebody else.
That's it. And that's what they do best. So
Oh,
I could have been rubbing up against people and telling them it's research. I need to go to a male strip club.
There you go. I think all but one of us would go right with you.
Sure, why not?
We're all in that way.
It's okay. It's okay. We're writers.
That's right.
That's
it's
right.
research.
That's why I knew I could say that. Right.
That's right.
I did crack open Stacey Abrams' book today. I know that came in. So I'm enjoying her novel so far.
Yay!
Yay!
Hey,
Dahlia.
I know
made
her.
I know you too.
Yes. And I was talking about the stuff I like to read on vacation. I do like to, stack my pile. I don't usually read research stuff. I'll hold off on that and just make sure I'll either have something like a cozy mystery. I do like those. And there's, some of those that are gaining more prominence in terms of publishing. Usually the little cozies have the thing where some aspect of food or something.
Yeah.
Which
is always fun for a vacation.
Yeah, it's very fun kind of thing, because part of vacation is figuring out where you're going to eat.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest part.
Absolutely.
I'm about to go to New Orleans in less than 2 weeks.
So jealous. And some of the books I love best are set in New Orleans, and usually there's food involved. So
See, now you have me in a conundrum. Go to New Orleans, go to Barbados for 3 weeks, and
Barbados, baby.
they have to even out somewhere.
You have family there, so you have to go.
That's right. Dahlia, why don't you jump in here and introduce yourself? Tell us what you write.
I'm Dahlia Rose. I'm a USA Today bestselling author. I write across multiple genres, from cozy to urban and suspense, all of that stuff. I'm currently in galley edits for the book with Hallmark. It's called Mistletoe and Juno, and I just got offered a contract to be in an anthology with authors like Heather Graham and what's that guy's name? Andrew Child, Amanda Flowers, stuff like that. So
that's great. Congratulations.
Awesome.
I'm like, hey,
Congrats.
Is that mistletoe in Juneau, like Alaska?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
It's a Christmas movie, so it comes out in October.
Oh, wonderful. That's so awesome. Alexandra, what about you? What's in your to be read pile when you go to the beach?
Well, I used to do all of my romance reading at the beach, but I don't do that anymore. I mean, I do still read romance at the beach, but I read it all the time now. So I'm not sure when that change happened. I don't know when that occurred. I used to always read horror novels at the beach, which seems really strange that you would read horror novels at the beach.
No, it's a great escape.
It is.
That's the whole point of vacation reading, is escape, right?
Right, exactly. Well, do you know what? I just had this epiphany. I think I know when it happened. I picked up the first Suki Stackhouse book, like when there was like one on the shelf and there were no others, and it was like one of 3 copies that they had there. Mm-hmm. I just happened to pick it up the day before I went to the beach, and I read that book, and I was finished with it by like Sunday evening. And so I, of course, went to the Books A Million at the beach to find the next one. And so then I read that one. And I think that might have been when the changeover happened, because it's kind of, horror with the vampires, romance with the sexy time with vampires. And then that may be where the changeover occurred. But I like to read things. I went through the change.
That's Samantha's gimmick.
It is. But yeah, I mean, I like to read things that are really light that I don't have to think too hard about when I'm at the beach. I'm like Piper. I don't want to read any sort of professional reading or any sort of research or anything like that at the beach. Ugh. I can't concentrate on it.
Only take the research books if it's fun research,
Right.
Like,
well, I mean, like true crime books.
Yeah.
If you're trying to figure out how to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The good
That's
stuff.
not going to be strange reading about serial killers on the beach.
Yeah.
I've been known to. I've been known to.
Okay. One of my all-time favorite but weirdest beach book that I ever took is a book by Catherine Ramsland called Cemetery Stories.
Yes.
And if you've never read this book, it's a hell of a book. But it's basically
making a note.
It is. Yeah. It's all about the funeral industry and, what happens to your body when you die. And I mean, just all of this and like little anecdotes and stuff. And she went like all over the country interviewing like funeral directors and embalmers and stuff like that. And I got so into it. And both of my siblings were very concerned about me because I'm sitting there on the beach going,
Wow.
You know?
Dead bodies. Yay.
Right, yay! So
I'm looking for
Okay,
that
now
grass that's up in things like, wait a minute, that grass is a little bit too green.
yeah,
Mhm.
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer. Go check and see what's
Exactly.
fertilizing it, you know?
exactly.
Then you're saying, body disposal or septic tank?
Exactly.
Corpse
Exactly.
poop. Corpse poop.
Right.
John, now I have to know, what do you take when you go on vacation? What do you take to read? Now, I hope that you don't take manuscripts that you're trying. I hope you at least do some reading for fun at the beach. Tell all.
So, yes, most of what I read at the beach is on submission. But since I'm the last line of defense, because it goes through 2 other humans before it gets to my desk, if it's an unsolicited submission, it's usually pretty good already, because
Right.
2 of our other editors have already said, okay, you should look at this. We should probably buy this. And, I buy probably a third of what they tell me we should buy. So I trust them 1 out of 3 times. If I'm reading for pleasure, a lot of times it really is true crime. The thing I'm up to my eyeballs in right now is Devil in the White City by Eric Larson.
So good.
Ooh.
So good. It talks about H.H. Holmes and the Chicago World's Fair and all of the interesting parallels between what Holmes was doing while they were making the World's Fair happen. And I've just gotten to the point where the World's Fair is the Ferris wheel's finally spinning is where I am in the book. So
I learned so much from that book.
yeah.
Oh, it's just stuck full of all sorts of stuff that you know,
And
that's
the
where that came from.
subset
Weird.
of American luminaries that visited that World's Fair.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But I read a lot of urban fantasy. I just saw today that Charlaine Harris has a new book out in her Gunny Rose series.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of alternate future weird Western, and I really like that series a lot, so I'll probably pick that up at some point. I also read a lot of comics when I'm on vacation or when I'm relaxing. I have Kindle Unlimited and Comixology, so there are a lot of the older Marvel and DC comic collections that I
That's
can
kind.
pick up that I'm already
Yeah.
paying the subscription for. So
Yeah.
old Alpha Flight, old X-Men, that kind of stuff, all the collected Batman stuff that I never got around to reading, like Hush and Long Halloween and all of that. So a lot of comics, and yes, a lot of stuff that's on submission. And one thing I'm certainly going to be reading over the course of this summer is I'm going to be reading a superhero book because I'm editing one, and I'm going to be reading a couple of novellas from somebody we all know and love because I'm editing those. So yeah, a lot of stuff that's on submission and a lot of first reads on the stuff I'm editing.
Cool. Well, I know I'm going to be reading the Bubba crossover.
I apologize in advance.
What, for when I snort coffee out?
I told my publisher for the Black Knight Chronicles, book 8 of that comes out in June. I told my publisher that if I'm found dead in a ditch in July, it's a reader. And she said, why? I said, I've killed a lot of really important secondary characters in the last 3 books. So
yeah, we don't like you for that, dude, very much.
There's Grumpy. So yeah.
Flash, what about you? What do you take into the beach to read, or the mountains, or wherever you like to go on vacation?
I read people.
Excellent choice.
Somebody walk across, yeah, we will sit there and we will heckle and we will read people all day. But if there's nobody walking by for us to actually sharpen our sarcasm on, because we're bad people. I never claimed to be an angel. We are bad people. But I tend to read whatever grabs my attention in manga, because I'm a huge Japanese anime fan. So I have stacks and stacks of manga in my TBR pile, just like any other books. And if I can't do that, I like going back to old comfort reads, because that way I don't get my heart rate going. I don't get upset and want to hurl the book across the beach, because if it's a bad read, I will throw it. I mean, I've broke many a spine of many a book.
Yes.
So I tend to go back towards like my Anne McCaffrey, her Freedom series.
Yeah, wonderful series.
Oh yeah. Anything where people get snatched and taken away to a different place, I am all in it for that. So, Anne McCaffrey is a good one for that. I do love my Kate Douglas books because she is a sweetie and she does so many wonderful things with shifters. I like to read her. Megan Slayer, because I was in the anthology with Megan Slayer before, and I absolutely positively love her LGBTQ stuff because her characters are quirky and about as silly as I am. But I try not to do anything that's going to make me think too hard, because if we're on vacation, let's face it, I'm the one that made the plans. I'm probably the one doing half the driving. I'm organizing everybody and taking care of all the troubleshooting. I don't want to think. So when I get there, I want to just sit down there and do that and just,
people watch and read people.
And then if that gets dead, I will pull out my cell phone and I will read fan fiction. I will read fan fiction on the beach, especially if it's some of my favorite characters that are being twisted around to do different things. Give me pregnant men. Give me the alpha, omega, beta world. Give me people who are doing body horror. And I blame a friend for this. He sent me a story. It says, read this. It's Vor. I had no idea what Vor was. So I'm reading it and go, oh, wow, this is great. This is interesting. What? Why? I didn't know you could do. Oh my God, he's still alive in his stomach and he's squirming. And she just died laughing. And I was like, that was so evil. Do you have more? So, anything that's unusual, anything that I can incorporate, and anything that's going to take my mind away from things. All that goes along with the comfort reading and, the reading of people, because, push comes to shove, you read a person the right way, that's a character in the book. And that's a scene I can write down for later.
Absolutely. A girlfriend and I used to sit on the beach and score people, 10.5. Ooh, that's only a 2.2. I'm sorry. We should have covered that shit up.
We did it. Put on your shirt. You get it.
Yes, please spare us all. Put on your shirt.
Jeannie, I really hope you weren't doing that on a nude beach.
No.
I have. All over Park in Miami. I went there out of curiosity and I sat down out of horror. There was this woman that was running. She was doing the slow motion Baywatch run where her boobs were like 3 feet behind her. And there was a guy who looked like he was wearing a fursuit. He was naked. You couldn't see anything. And I was like, where are all the hot people that are supposed to be on nude?
Oh, no, they don't exist. No. They don't go to the nude beach.
No, not were they wearing banana hammocks? Because that has done it for me. And they're like, oops, gone.
Clothes optional. And they chose not to do it.
See, this is where we have to insert the Lex guide to having a beach body. Okay, everybody can see I am not a tiny pixie by any stretch of the imagination, but I have absolutely no problem wearing whatever I want to on the beach because there's always somebody uglier than me. So I go out to the beach, I pitch my little umbrella beside the ugliest person I can find. And then when I'm sitting there, when people walk by, they'll be like, oh my God, look at that guy. They're not looking at me. And I told this to my sister-in-law and she was like, but what if somebody pitches their umbrella next to me? I'm like, you don't know those people. You don't have to see them again ever again in life.
It's the beach. You'll never see them again.
Exactly. If you do a slow motion Baywatch run, are your boobs going to be flapping 3 feet behind you?
And all these years, I thought Lex was pitching her umbrella next to me because she liked me.
I know.
Well, I had next to me, and I don't care.
Okay, all right. So, Dahlia, when you pitch your tent at the beach or you go to the mountains, what are you reading?
Well,
we got to get away from the flapping.
But do this every once in a while.
I usually I don't read a lot of romance, but I do go to like those old classic body strippers and stuff. I'll read those, and I'll probably read Dinar Kuntz or L.A. Banks, any of those people, because I really don't read romance. I don't want other people's voices to inflict what I'm writing, so I won't read in the genre that I'm writing. So that's what I love thrillers, and my TV is always on Snapped, and then there's one called Very Scary People, and I'm like, they are very scary people. And I figured out that there's no serial killers from October that I can find. that we are that good so far until someone gets caught. But I think LA Banks and everything is great to give you a whole world, and you're on vacation and you're finally letting your brain relax, because the year has been terrible. And we're now getting back into the swing of things, and we all need a break from work, from reality, from everything. So I'd say
I think every vacation spot this year is going to be slammed, because we all need people, and we need vacation, and we need beach reads. So
yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just read what you like at the beach, and and put on suntan lotion, because you don't want to, you don't want to be burnt toast.
Just developed an allergy to the sun. So I'm going to be, if they actually let me out of the house to go someplace, I'll be like Wednesday Addams with an umbrella, dressed head to toe, sitting down, like whimpering because I want to get out and do stuff, and everybody be like, sit down, get under the umbrella.
Now see, I am the quintessential mountain girl. I want to be where it's cool. So all these conferences, like, we're going to go to the beach in July. I'm going, can we go to Banff in November, please, so I can wear a sweater, because I'm going to die at the beach. So I take my boys to the beach. I drive them down to the beach. I go back to the house, turn the air conditioning down, and read. And John, I read Eric Larson's Thunderstruck, which is equally good. He's not as well known as Devil in the White City, but that's another one you would probably like.
I just really like him as a writer.
Oh yeah, he's got a great turn of phrase, and he's just got a way of pacing things that's really interesting. Samantha, what about you? What do you take to read when we used to all take a big pile of books. Now we can all take our Kindles, right? Or our mobile devices.
Usually there's something I've been kind of saving, like, like I promised myself I'll get to read this one when school's out and I can sit and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And this year that was going to be the new Becky Chambers, but I needed it sooner. I've already read it.
I needed it, man. I needed it.
I did. Becky Chambers is like medicine for me. When life is bad, she's so optimistic without being saccharine. And I really, really love that uplift kind of feeling that I have, and the feeling of hope that her stories give me. So I needed that a month ago. So I've already read that one. But a lot of times in summer, I binge somebody. Yeah. So like there was the Sookie Stackhouse summer where I read all of those. There was the Jim Butcher summer where I read all of his Harry Dresden's. Of course, he's written some more since then, so maybe I have to do that one again.
You may have to binge some more.
Yeah. I did Lydia Kang one summer. She writes these kind of historical mysteries with a bit of romance. My favorite one was called Opium and Absinthe.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, just
great title.
I'm a fan of both of those things.
Lydia or Opium?
Opium and Absinthe.
Well, I recommend the book.
Oh, it's a book. Okay, that's different.
I'm thinking this summer that I might actually be looking at Lexi's sister, Lucy Blue. I recently read something of hers for the first time, a Sherlock Holmes story she'd written, Butterfly, something about a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
You know which one I'm talking about?
It's the butterfly. It's the butterfly.
Okay. Yeah, and I liked it a whole lot, and I've been hearing a lot about her Stella series, and so I'm thinking this summer might be my Stella summer. I do like having reading a bunch of something, either one particular author or one particular series, and just people have already said, but I want something that leaves me feeling up afterwards. So this isn't when I'm going to read your big depressing memoir about your horrible childhood.
Yeah, no.
I will probably read that because I read that kind of stuff too, but I'm probably not going to read it while I'm on vacation. I'm going to read something preferably short that, whether the story goes dark or whatever along the way, as long as at the end of it, I feel good. I feel like, ooh, yeah, then that was the right book.
Yeah, I love to read romance at the beach as long as it's not the genre in which I'm writing. I'm sort of like you with that, Dahlia. So I read a lot of shifters when I'm at the beach because I don't write them. So I love to read the Shifter series. I love all the Nalini Singh books and all that sort of thing. Don't write Angels either, so I can read her series. And she's kind of a comfort read for me, and she's sort of kept me sane over the last year. You know, you mentioned it too, Flash, about comfort reads and everything, and I think that's been a really big staple for a lot of us over the last year. John, what are your comfort reads? What are your go-tos when you need to just get away from it, but you don't have time to start something new, and you don't want something that you don't know what it's going to make you feel like? What's your comfort read? What's your go-to?
Well, again, a lot of 80s and 90s Marvel comics is a big one for me. I know the Chris Claremont X-Men run inside and out, so I can hop into that and hop out anywhere. Kim Harrison's Hollows series is a comfort read for me. That's one of the first things I read when I was getting into urban fantasy. So dropping back into that. Gaiman's Neverwhere and Stardust, both of those are really, Stardust in particular is a lot nicer than most Gaiman, because Neil can get pretty dark. He's been a goth bitch
the
a
Graveyard
long
book.
time.
The Graveyard book that was wonderful.
That's a beautiful.
Oh, it is
book.
Wonderful.
But
it is wonderful.
he been a goth bitch for a long time.
Yes.
So, and then comedy stuff, Hitchhiker's Guide, Steve Wetherell's Doomsayer Journeys, that stuff. That kind of stuff is a lot of where I go for that popcorn familiarity. Yeah.
What about you, Piper? Where do you go for a familiar read that, you know, if you don't want to start something new and you're done with the grading exams and
Well, I would go back to something like Beverly Jenkins and something like that. My favorite, I've taught Indigo before. I've made
great book.
Several, fans of that. But Vivid is my favorite.
Mine too. I bought the 25th anniversary edition so I could just reread it all over again and enjoy it.
Yes, Vivid is my favorite, and or something like that. Or I also like some historical mysteries sometimes, and like when Samantha's talking about reading a series or something like that. I
went on Deanna Raybourne binge a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like Deanna Raybourne, the Maggie Hope series. I just got in the mail. Maybe Susan knew I needed it. It came in the mail today, an arc for her new Maggie Hope book that's set out in Hollywood in the 1940s, where I think she has Lena Horne as a character in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's really like that kind of, the going back and rereading in those historical mystery series is fun too.
Yeah, it's super fun. Alexandra, what about you?
This is, again, it's so weird because I'm supposed to be a romance novelist, but
you are a romance
I read I am my comfort read, seriously, I read Pet Sematary at least once a year. Pet Sematary by Stephen King is my favorite book of all time. I don't know why. Stephen King even hates that book, and it's not comforting at all. I'm told that if I was a parent, that I wouldn't be able to read that book at all. I don't believe it. But it's my absolute favorite, and so I read it at least once a year. I also read his Duma Key, which is also a really good beach read if you've never read Duma Key. It's exceptionally good, and it's one of the few Stephen King books that actually has a really good ending on it.
I've never read that one, so okay, now I could read it.
Oh, it's really good. It's really good, and it has a really good, satisfying ending, which sometimes he has a hard time with that. It's like
sometimes.
Yeah.
I think you just
Uncle
named
Steve.
like the book that he stuck the landing on.
Well, I mean,
I think it's why they can't make good movies of his books.
Well, I mean, look, the man is one of the.
The thing that pissed me off the most about like the Dr. Sleep movie is the ending of the book. Dr. Sleep is really good, and they screwed it up in the movie. And I'm like, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best writers of our lifetime, and freely admits that he can't write a damn ending.
Yeah, and it's like he is. It's like he gets to a certain point, he doesn't know what to do.
And then he's like, okay, we're done. Period.
Right. Or the ending is so incredible. It's such a damn downer that you're like, what the hell did I even read this for?
Oh, Mr. Mercedes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Misery.
Yeah. Misery. Yeah. But yeah, I find myself doing that a lot of times. I read short stories as comfort reads. My mother was sick with heart disease for a long time, and so for a long time I found myself sitting in hospital waiting rooms, and what I was always comforted by was short stories. I would always take an anthology of short stories, whether they be horror short stories or fantasy or horror or whatever. It was something about the format of just a short piece that I didn't have to invest a whole lot of time in. Was very comforting.
I loved anthologies for that, because I spent a lot of time at baseball practice and sitting on really cold or hard bleachers, not watching them screw up.
Fan fiction is actually good for that. So we were talking about reading fan fiction. Reading fan fiction is really good for that if you can find a really good one. I have a hard time finding really good fan fiction. I guess I'm too much of a snob these days.
Ask Gail Martin. She's got some good fan fiction sites that she goes to.
Yeah. Well, I've got my favorites on like AO3, and I've started reading a little bit on Wattpad, but I haven't been very successful in finding good fan fiction on Wattpad.
Yeah, I haven't either. Dahlia, what about you? You mentioned comfort reads a little bit.
Oh yeah. I go for like cozy mysteries, kind of like, Juliet Blackwell, Victoria Laurie, stuff like that. And if I want something more grittier, I will go towards Nora Roberts' Eve Dallas series. I'm committed to reading that whole thing no matter what. Even if it's the last day on earth, I will have that book, because she has so many wow. And I like her Morgan Cross series, all of her titles that have like mystery and suspense, and you have a bit of magic mixed in there. That's the kind of stuff that I really like. So it's far away from what I write, so I come back refreshed. I don't have to think about romance or the next project or anything when I'm on vacation. Like right now, we are leaving for Barbados in July. I'm going to be gone 3 weeks. I will not be working. I will not be thinking romance, but I will be sitting in the underwater waterfall bar, drinking something sweet and alcoholic, and reading some of those books.
Pictures for the rest of us.
Yeah. You gotta post that up on Facebook. You gotta post the waterfall bar.
I will.
Yeah. I decided to do a reread of the In Death series, and it's really been kind of fun because we're 45 books and 50 books into the series, so we know those characters really well. Well, when you go back to reread, it's like, oh yeah, this is when they didn't know anybody, they didn't know each other, and you sort of see that reintroduction. It's kind of fun.
I'm a huge Nora Roberts fan, but I have never read those books.
Yeah, a lot of folks who are Nora fans don't like the In Death series, and vice versa. There are a lot of people who like love the In Death series and are like, I could take her or leave for other books.
I'm sure that I would like them. I don't know. I've never read those. But I'll tell you the ones that I really do. I love, go and find some early Nora books, like the ones that she was writing before people told her what romance novels were supposed to be like.
The Silhouette.
There is a book. There is a book called Divine Evil that she wrote like ages ago.
It's
fabulous. My God, it's my one of my favorite books, and it's like a horror novel, but people have sex in it every now and then.
Yeah, it's great.
It's amazing. I love that book.
I mean, her series that contained a lot of magic, like the series that just came out last year, it was like, first one, and then
Awakening.
It was Awakening, and the whole apocalypse thing going on. I love that.
Year one.
Yeah.
Year one. Awakening is different. That's the new series. Yeah.
Yeah. And she just pulls you in and terrifies you. And I'm like, oh, so that's what it feels like. I usually read Stephen King's The Stand because it scares me into religion. I just finished that. It scares me into religion a little bit. So I'm like, okay, this is my yearly trip to church.
The only problem I had with year one, it was like 3/4 of the way through this book, it's a post-apocalyptic story. Then suddenly it takes an abrupt left turn and becomes this romance with a romance ending, and you're like,
exactly.
It was whiplash. It was
I've got the
both sections.
second one of those books sitting there waiting for me to read, but I'm like, I can't read that right now.
Yeah. I
You
was in the
know?
middle of writing a plague book when we went into lockdown.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that one's on the
Yeah.
shelf.
You got to put
Yeah,
that
I
away a
love,
little while.
I love you, Jeannie,
Yeah.
but I ain't
Yeah.
buying that shit.
We've been there.
I love you
We've been
too,
there,
John,
done
and I
that.
ain't writing it. So my poor husband said, I think that's making you a little depressed. Perhaps you should set that project aside. I'm going, you got a point. Flash, what about you? What's your comfort read? What's your go-to comfort read?
Believe it or not, I will go all the way back to Jeanne Adams' Planet of the Cave Bear.
Awesome.
Oh, that's
awesome
up.
series.
That whole series, except for the last one, the was it Shelters
It's
or
always the
Stone?
last one.
Thank you.
Not so great.
Yeah,
And I waited 10 years for that darn book.
it was so disappointing.
I don't even think I finished that one.
Oh, don't bother. It's
Yeah, don't. It's
Just that bad.
I think she gave up on it and was like, let me throw something out here because people keep bugging me.
mhm.
But up until that point, it was the things that I love about escapism. It was your environment as a character, because now we're in prehistoric times. It was the feeling of being an outsider as a Black female living in this country. Yeah, I get that. The feel that everything is against you, no matter how much you do, and no matter how much you do, it's never enough. I could relate to that. But then all the character developments. I mean, I blame my mother for this because I knew nothing about it. I was 12 years old. My mom walks in the house and throws the Valley of the Horses at me.
Yeah.
She's like, here, read this. This will keep you. You read all those books all the time. This will keep you down. Not knowing that this thing was straight out erotica. So I was,
Yeah,
I was going to say, had she read it?
Yondalore was getting it on a lot. That's true.
Oh, she had not read it. She liked little Harlequins and little short stuff. She was an RN, so quick reads is what she was all about. She's like, you keep buying books here. This will hold you down. It held me down for one night because I was like, wait a minute, there are others.
It's great.
Go back. Let me go. And I went back to the first, and it was like the horror. But it horrified me in such a good way that I made a sling for a science project. I did like book reports. Our book report was about trash. I was like, oh, I am not reading this mess that you wanted me to read. I'm reading this. And my teacher was like, all of that was in that book. Yeah. Are you old enough to read that book? No. But my mommy gave it to me. So, okay. So those, because so much action and such an alien environment, it was really truly immersing yourself in someplace else. And that was like the epitome of escapism to me. Yeah. I will also go back to Old Dara Joy. I love the Rijar, it was the Night of a Trillion Stars series. Oh my goodness. Rijar was like one of the first erotic, it was like almost like a Victorian, partially Victorian setting. Because at that point I didn't like Regencies because I read them and it was like all build up and no bang bang. It was tick, 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 and nothing. And it was like, wait. Oh.
Yeah, they build up all this sexual tension and then nothing.
Yeah. And I read this, and it's like, this is the same time period. This is the proper time. Wow, I didn't think you could do that. And then that also actually drugged me into a lot of ritualistic sexual things that I could use later and stuff that I was writing. Because at that point, nobody had really ever done that. I've seen it in sci-fi and horror, but not in a romance novel. It was like,
and it was fun. It was funny for me is my father was a librarian. So anytime he said, are you old enough to read that, honey? I would go, are you censoring me? And he would never have an answer for that. And so I read all sorts of things I probably should not have read at the age that I was reading it, but it really did inform my writing later. And it became this sort of joke in the family about what you were supposed to read at what age, And but I've heard so many people tell the stories like you just did, Flash, where somebody said, here, this will keep you busy, a door stopper, right? And for those of us who are serious readers, that isn't going to put us down for very long.
I think my mother was tired of me stealing her Harlequins because back in the day when they tried to hide them when they first came up with Desire.
Well, and Harlequins, you can read them like that, especially those old ones, those old ones,
Oh yeah, they were like popcorn, and it was always a secretary and
the billionaire's baby secret or something like that. Yeah,
and you knew it was going to happen, so you're like, all right, you're just down.
I gotta give Harlequin their props. In the 90s and 2000s, they really stepped up their game, and they've gone from having that reputation of being popcorn to being really great fiction. So I got to give them their props on that one. Samantha, what about you? What's your comfort go-to? I mean, you've already mentioned a couple, but
So I reread Shirley Jackson every single year. Like We Have Always Lived in the Castle is probably my all-time favorite book, and I read it at least once a year. And a nice thing about that one for me is that I know it so much that if I don't get to finish it because I'm on vacation with my family, it's okay. You know, I enjoyed the part of it I got to read, and I remember all the rest of it. And I really noticed the part that I read. I could almost just pick it up and like read any section.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another one like that for me is Rebecca, Daphne du Maurier.
Yeah.
That's somebody was talking about books their mother gave them, and that was one for me. I was very sick one of my young teenage years, and my mom just kept giving me books and giving me books and giving me books to try to occupy her very active girl who suddenly couldn't be active. And Daphne du Maurier got me through a lot of that year, and Shirley Jackson and Mary Stewart. Although I haven't read Mary Stewart in years. I don't know if I would still like her, but I loved her when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. There's some that you go back that hold up and some that don't.
Yeah. And a lot of times in the summer, I'll try to share something that I loved when I was young with my youngest. My youngest is now 14. And reading taste wise has a lot more in common with me than my older kid who's 21. And so I can read all the weird, creepy stuff that I enjoyed when I was 14 with them and enjoy it again, and enjoy shocking this 14-year-old with what? My mother reads this?
I tried at one point to read some of my childhood favorites to my children, and they were aghast. So I gave that up.
Oh, I thought
Mom, you're just weird. You're just weird.
Jane Emily by Patricia Clapp.
Okay.
I know that one's not as well known, but it will change forever how you feel about gazing balls in gardens.
Okay. Then.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay.
That's not how I thought that sentence was going to end.
I was about to say,
But
gazing balls in the garden. Is that what you
gazing
said?
balls. Those.
You wrote that
spiky
in
balls
a
that you
book,
put in
didn't
the
you,
garden.
Lex?
I think I did. I think that's in the next.
And
I
there
think
was-
that's in the next Watson book, actually.
You guys know which person you're
Um,
talking to. This isn't one of Lexi's books. This is one
I
of
know.
mine.
I know.
It's not so much that you're horrifying your 14-year-old when they see the things that you read, but eventually your 14-year-old's going to read the things your friends write, and then
It's all over.
yeah.
Oh,
So
my daughters refuse to read anything. My oldest, she'll send my friends to buy the books, but then they ask, "Do you read them?" She's like, "Hell no, I'm not reading that." She's my mommy. She's innocent, and I'm like, "Sure I am." Okay,
I don't read Lucy's
yeah.
like her really sexy stuff. I can't. She teases me about it all the time.
Yeah,
Like if I'm reading one of her sexy books, I like skip over the sex scenes. So I'm like, oh, that's like.
So my sister-in-law will read my books, but my brothers won't. My brothers won't read my books. Even the space adventure, which has no sex, they will not read them for fear that it might be a kissing book.
That's right. Surprise.
A couple of my uncles who don't generally read a lot, they're like book a year kind of guys, read my books. And my Uncle George called me out of the blue to tell me how much he liked Going Through the Change, and that just was like, that's almost as good as getting royalties.
almost.
Oh, well then the next quarter I'll just have your Uncle George call you.
Well, these days we need a Ouija board, but
Again, I'm an ordained minister. I can make this shit happen.
My dad bought one of my books and read it and looked at me and said, "Baby, I love you. I'll always support you, but I'm never reading anything you wrote in there. Who did this to you?" And I'm pointing to my husband. I learned it from him.
It's his fault.
You always got to be the innocent one because dads are crazy, no matter what age you get.
So like I mentioned, my father was a librarian. So when my first book came out from Kensington, which is a romance publisher, as you all probably know, he announced to me one day on the phone, "Honey, your stepmother and I read your book to one another." I wanted the earth to open up and swallow me, because this is a very sexy book. Yes. Of course, being my dad, being a librarian and very much a literary snob, he had to say, and you know, you're quite a good writer. It will be wonderful when you write a real book.
Oh,
Oh,
Damn with fake
wow.
praise. Because, you know, longtime librarian really did not think the romance section was all that important. I'm like, oh, come on, Dad, get with the program here. By the time I was on my 4th book, he was a little better about it. But
Yeah.
my mom would read it and go, you can make the sex a little hotter, Stephanie.
My mother will never read
Oh.
anything that I have written ever. She will,
Oh, no,
you know, try to exorcise the demons that are in me. We don't do that. She's so overly religious that even seeing the covers makes her feel, she's like, you really have to start going to church with me when you come into town. And I'm like, I really don't. I don't want to.
The mistletoe book.
The mistletoe is nice, it's sweet, but she won't read any of the other stuff. She won't read
I'm just
anything.
saying.
She will recommend it to her friends, but she will never read it. And I'm like,
Does she
like,
recommend it to all her friends or just like her slutty friends? Because
they're all deacons in a weird church, so
Oh, there you go.
I do not know who's reading
Oh,
what.
they probably,
so all
they
her
probably
friends
would
are her
love it.
slutty
All of her
friends.
friends, basically.
She's
And I mean,
It
I
was
also
actually weirder for me when my mother-in-law read my book than it was when my mother did. My mother knows why I am who I am. It's her fault. My mother-in-law, I think, still hopes that I would be a woman more like she is. That's what she thought her son would marry. So, yeah.
And you just put pay to that, didn't you?
Well, if you've read the first chapter of Going Through the Change, yeah. I either win you as a reader or lose you as a reader in chapter 1.
Well, we're about close to time, so let's wrap up by saying, you know, if you've got a couple books you're recommending for people to read, your own included, if you have something coming out, and then tell us where we can find you on the web. Why don't we start with you, Piper?
As I said, my contemporary romance, my first one from Hallmark is coming out on July 13th. It's called and it is about an intellectual property lawyer who's forced to go back to her small town home because some dude is down there trying to take her grandmother's recipes and she's not having it. So there's lots of food, Southern food.
Yay.
That's the best kind.
Yes.
Absolutely. Where can we find you on the web?
And I am on Facebook at Piper Hughley, and Twitter, a lot of Twitter, where I create a lot of trouble. At
Piper Sweet Tea, pre-order Sweet Tea Hughley. That's what she has on. That's what she has on her Twitter.
My handle is right, and my blog is piperhughley.com.
Excellent. What about you, Dahlia?
I have a few things coming out. I have historical called The Owl and the Pussycat coming out in June. I have It Takes a Kiss, which is the second in my Royal Fairy Tale series, and the third one in the second book in my motorcycle series will come out sometime in June or late June, early July. And of course, Mistletoe in Juno is with Hallmark, and that comes out October 19th. And that one is about taking like a fish out of water kind of scenario where she's a New Yorker and he's a sheriff in a small town in Alaska, you know, a state trooper because they don't have sheriffs. And then a lot of quinky dinks happen, and it's Christmas, and it's all like win back the love thing. It's very cute and very sweet. There is no sex. I can see.
Still sounds adorable, though.
Y'all thought I couldn't write without sex, but I did.
I'm sure that was a challenge that you had to.
I was like, I only was allowed to put 2 kisses in there, and I was like, man. You only got one? You only got one? I got 2, and I was like, I have like 3 in there, and they made me remove one.
I had 3 in the synopsis, and they made me remove 2 of them.
They will
put
not
more kissing than that in my horror novels, for God's sake.
No, we only get
What were they kissing? That's the question. What were they kissing?
each other. This is supposed to be building intimacy, and you only get 1 or 2 kisses, and hopefully the very last kiss is the kiss that they want at the end of the book. And I'm like, but I could so drop a sex scene in here right now in that little hut, you know, ice fishing. And I'm like, walk away, Dahlia, walk away.
You got 2 kids, so you practically got a sex scene according to their standards.
That's the very
It was
big challenge
practically
about
the
writing to someone's standards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Long
So
as
Dahlia,
the
where
check
can we find?
clears.
Oh, I'm on Amazon, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just, the name is easy, Dahlia Rose. Just go look for it. And my website is www.dahliaroseinscripted.com.
Excellent. Samantha, what about you?
So 2020 was a big year for the menopausal superheroes with 4 releases, and they're great beachside reads if you like some shorter
Absolutely.
stuff. So in 2021, I don't actually have my pub date yet from John, but he said late 2021. So I'm assuming that's later than summer, especially,
Oh, yeah.
especially since the edits aren't
yeah.
back in my court yet. So
That's because I haven't started them yet.
yeah.
See, so now you know. There you go.
Yeah.
And where can
So,
we find you on the web?
I'm at samanthbryant.com. That's my website. And then I do Facebook and Twitter and Instagram are my 3 favorite social medias. I'm playing around on a new one called Yumi, which is kind of fun. On Instagram and Twitter, I'm Samantha B. Writer, just the letter B, because I thought it was kind of punny, like Samantha B. Writer. And if you Google me, make sure you put Samantha Bryant author. Otherwise, you're going to get an actress who's married to Tom Hanks. And I can rock a ball gown, but I prefer not to.
Most excellent. John Hartness, I know you got a bunch of stuff up your sleeve. What's going on with you?
Well, after not releasing much last year, so far from February to August, I'm looking at a book a month this year. For beachy type stuff, April saw the release of my most recent Shingles horror parody novella, which is my parody of True Blood. It's called Deader Than Hell, and it features the adventures of self-proclaimed psychic waitress Dookie Brickhouse. So that's available at Amazon for ebook and everywhere novellas are sold for print. The most recent Bubba the Monster Hunter novella, Blaze of Glory, just released last Thursday on early May. There will be the 8th Black Knight Chronicles book, Woman in Black, will release on June, 8th or 9th, whatever's the Friday. Then the Bubba the Monster Hunter Season 5 collection, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, will drop in the middle of July, and Quincy Harker Book 8, The Reckoning, will come out sometime in August.
So we know we can find you at Falstaff Books. Where else can we find you on the web?
You can find me on Twitter. All of my social media is incredibly original. It's at John Hartness. I have a Facebook group called John G. Hartness Books. That's the best way to get in touch with me and the best way to keep track of all my releases as well. We have the Falstaff Books Misfit Toys group, which is a great way to keep track of all of our new and upcoming releases. So we release about a book a week. So hang on, it's a bumpy ride, kids. So
yeah, but if you need a read, that's the place to go, because it's a book a week. So
we've got them.
They've got them.
We've got them. We don't have much sleep, but we got books.
That's right. Stephanie, what about you? What's your next release, and where can we find you on the web?
Okay, I just had a re-release of a book called The Coven, which is shapeshifters, gargoyles into humans, and it's one woman and 6 men, and her quest to get the essence that was stolen back from her on this plane.
I love those odds.
It's trying to write a sex scene with 7 people and trying to keep all the names straight. Yeah, and there's only one woman, so yeah, there was a lot of
the names ain't all you got to keep straight.
Well, no, you don't want them actually straight, or the whole family thing doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
But,
I'm trying to picture that in my head, and I really can't.
I had dolls to line them up to actually see what was right and if it could be done. So yeah, that was a lot of thought that went into that. But that
was diagramming sentences a whole new meaning.
You have no idea. And then trying to ask somebody, does this sound right? Oh God, what is wrong with you? So that was a fun read. It's kind of a little dark one, but it has a happy ending. And that just came out like last week through Changeling Press. You can find that on Changeling on Amazon. And on the 28th, I have another read from Changeling Press coming out. It's called Demonium Rex, AKA Buttercup. And it's my incubus who gets trapped in this relationship with this woman she's a writer, of course, and she renames him Buttercup because she doesn't believe he exists. She thinks he's just a voice in her head. It's the next book waiting to be written. So that one drops on May 28th through Changeling Press.
Excellent.
I've had the troubled years. These past two and this early of this year has been horrible. So I don't have too much more coming up, maybe another 2 books, but that's going to be way after summer when they do come. But you can find me at Stephanie Burke on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on MeWe, or you can just find me on Amazon because even my self-published stuff is there on Amazon. So you can definitely find some really good reads. And for a quick one, if you can think about it, there is the How Not to Date. I have a series called the How Not to Date series. The only thing that connects all these stories together, it's how not to date, like an alien, a bear shifter, a werewolf. There's a whole bunch of how not to dates, and they've now been put into an anthology format. So little small anthology stories, you get about 5 or 6 for each book. So that's a pretty good beach read. That can keep you down, and guaranteed not to make you want to hurl the book into the water.
Most excellent. Because I'm a librarian's daughter. I can't hurl books. It's just against my DNA. I just can't do it.
Well,
even when I want to, I can't.
Bury in the sand and pretend you forgot it. Oh no, I left the book.
I might could do that with some of them. Last but not ever least, what's your latest release? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, you cut out. I didn't hear my name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
Calling Lex.
Calling Lex. Are you here? It was like a seance. Anyway,
I am a genie,
you are. Well, I had a particularly bad year last year, so my writing is very, very stalled. But probably the beachiest beach read that I have had come out recently is my contemporary romance. It's called Falling into Rhythm, and it came out in September of last year, and it is, like I said, it's the beachiest beach read you can ever meet. It's small town, single dad, cute kid, lots of,
hijinks,
kissing, and then lots of almost kissing and then not kissing, that sort of thing. Coming out.
Tension, baby, tension.
I know, tension, baby. It's great. And it's one of those really floofy, airy romance novels where there's not a whole lot of conflict. It's just, you just let it wash over you,
That's excellent. It's what we need right now.
Exactly.
It's exactly what you need right now. But in the next couple of weeks, I've got the second book in my John Watson Monster Hunter books that are coming out through Falstaff, and it's called Dr. Watson and the Ladies Club Coven, and it's about well, let's just put it this way. There is one point when Watson falls into a pit of naked witches, and it's amazing.
Not something you hear every day. You're here to hear first.
Right.
If you've ever wondered what Mrs. Hudson looks like naked, Watson hadn't, but now he knows.
So yeah, if you like Sherlock Holmes style mysteries, but also kind of funny, then those books are definitely for you. And it's the second in the series, and there's going to be 4. John, I swear to God, there's going to be 4. But yeah,
I promise.
And possibly more than that. But,
well, Lex, where can we find you on the web?
My website is actually under construction right now. It's going to be alexandrachristian.com, but in the meantime, you can find me on Facebook. My author group is called Hell's Bells, and there's only one other Hell's Bells group on Facebook, and I think they're like a motorcycle gang. So you'll definitely be able to tell which one is me. And I also have a group for writers and readers. It's called The Romantic Left. And we would love to have you guys join that. And basically, it's a bunch of liberal romance writers, because I was having a really hard time finding some liberal peeps. And no, we don't talk politics in the book, in the group. We don't, but we do, but it's kind of I hate to use this word, it's kind of a safe space in an industry that tends to be kind of conservative a lot of the time. So y'all can find me there. I'm on Twitter and TikTok and all that stuff as Lexi C or Lex Christian. You can usually find me.
Excellent. And I'm Jeanne Adams, and let's see, my latest release will be out probably by the time this airs, which is called Deadly Discovery, and it's going back to my romantic suspense roots. It's a DNA suspense story. And you can find me at jeanneadams.com. You can find me on Twitter, where I spend way too much time, Facebook and the usual other platforms. And obviously you can find all of us here on ConTinual, the con that never ends on the web. We are so glad to have had you all here tonight. Thank you so much for talking beach reads and comfort reads, and really, really appreciate you being here. And we look forward to seeing you again. Good night, everybody.
Good night.